I'm Trevor Wynn. I live in Los Angeles, but I'm originally from Charlotte, North Carolina.
And how'd you end up in LA?
Moved to LA to be an actor. That was kind of my dream. I did that for about 5 years, and some of the best days, ever. I really enjoyed it. Wouldn't trade that experience for really anything.
Wow. Did you what was that like?
I was in college and I took an acting class. I kind of always enjoy performing and, kind of being, I don't know, somewhat funny, but didn't really do plays or anything like that growing up. But I took this acting class in college and just absolutely fell in love with it. It was incredible. And then I got an agent locally and started going out for stuff. And then I was thinking about, life and what the future could be, and you don't want to have regrets, or you try not to. So I said, kind of want to go to LA and try it. So I did. It was a risk, but it was probably the best risk I've ever taken. So.
Very cool. So did you end up in anything that we might have seen?
No. That's why I'm not doing it anymore.
That happens. That's LA for you.
Yeah.
You try until you try something else.
Exactly.
So what did you end up doing after acting?
I ended up going to law school, and now I work as an attorney. So.
Wow. So complete turn of course.
Yeah, I always kind of had a background in education, and I'd gone to college, and I knew I would probably eventually have to get a real job, and it just kind of all worked out in that way. So.
Yeah. So, what was it like growing up in Charlotte?
It's kind of interesting, and in some ways it was very idyllic. Playing in the neighborhood, having lots of friends. It was back before the internet really was a thing, so you just go out and play. I had lots of friends that I would go to their homes, and it was nice, but you always felt like you were, the only one, because in the neighborhoods that we lived in, they weren't diverse. So it was a very homogenous kind of existence, both going to school and at home. But we went to a black church, and that definitely was very much some exposure to the culture that we have, but it I don't know, it's an interesting place. Yeah, kind of have mixed feelings about it.
I got you. Same. So how did that inform your interests? I know that you are a car collector, a watch collector.
Mm-hmm.
You also have a podcast, right?
I do, yeah.
What's your podcast called?
The podcast is Pari Pari. It's a podcast where I talk architecture, cars, watches, basically all the interests that I have, and also just general conversation. I want it to be like the listeners just kind of sitting down with us, my guest and me. So.
Nice. So and so how did growing up in the South sort of lead you to this wide range of interests?
Well, I think in some ways, although a lot of the people I grew up with were not like me and were from somewhat different backgrounds, it exposed me to a lot of different music, a lot of different culture, definitely cars. A lot of my classmates, their dads had amazing cars, and I used to, look at them and be like, man, that'll be me one day. Not so much on the watch front. I think that came kind of later, being exposed to a lot of different watches. But I always had, people in my life that I looked up to and thought they had great watches, and I had an interest in them. But it wasn't like looking at it and being like, oh, that's a Rolex or that's a Tudor. It was more of just admiring it for the aesthetics of it. But yeah, I would say just being kind of open to different things, right? I grew up listening to all types of music, and I still enjoy all types of music. I might be playing hip hop one moment and, ambient music the next.
Sure. I'm the same. Okay, so what would you say is like the first, if I'm interested in watches, but I don't know where to go, and I don't want like the typical starter pack for new watches, what would you say is a great first watch?
I would look at Seiko. I know Seiko is very ubiquitous. There's a lot of them out there, but you can go vintage. You You could go neo vintage, or you could go modern. There's endless amounts of Seikos. In fact, I brought one of my vintage Seikos here, and I love it. The design is great, keeps great time, won't break the bank too badly. It's just great brand, and there are a lot of versatility. You can do a dress watch, you could do a sports watch. I tend to enjoy the sports watches, but yeah, Seiko Turtle specifically would probably be my number one recommendation.
Okay. And then what about any like alternative brands? Would you suggest any are there any new brands that are like really cool that are kind of like off the radar that you would recommend?
I really like a company called Sheffield. It was a legacy brand that's been resurrected, so a new owner, but this was a brand that they built watches in the 60s and 70s with an emphasis of them being affordable and being design driven. And then the brand kind of went defunct and it's been brought back. And I think in its current iteration, they're staying true to that same approach of great design, but affordability. And it's not, if you know about these things, you would know about them. It's kind of associated with car culture, the Sheffield brand, but yeah, that's what I would recommend as well.
Well, speaking of cars, what is your daily driver?
That's kind of a difficult question a little bit. I would say probably my SL 500 Mercedes, 2001. It's the car I probably drive the most. It's super reliable, just that classic shape, beautiful Bruno Sacco design. I love the car. It's so much car for the amount of money that they cost today.
Yeah.
And at the time when these cars were made, they were extremely expensive. So you still get a lot of that Mercedes engineering, but at a very affordable price point.
Yeah, that's fine. And it's a big one too.
The SL.
Oh, the SL. Oh, okay.
I love the S Class as well, though.
Yeah, but the SL is like more fun.
Yeah.
But you drove the Porsche today.
I did. Yeah.
Tell us about that.
It's a 2006 Porsche Carrera. So it's the 997 generation. It is seal gray metallic over black leather. Very simple. It's the base model, 6-speed manual. It's kind of the essence of the Porsche Carrera. The Porsche line, now there's so many different trims, right? You have the Carrera S, the GTS, the GT3, GT3 RS, endless options. But when you think about what Porsche was doing then and even now, it starts with the Carrera. That's the base, right? That's the foundation. So in a lot of ways, even though it's not a fancy trim, this is what the engineer spent the most time on kind of designing. And I just love the car. It just drives so well. It has a lot of kind of modern features, even though it's almost 20 years old. And it just brings me so much joy.
So if I'm second, third job, still under 30, maybe just hitting 30, and I got a little money saved up, and I'm ready to get a Porsche, what would you say? What's like my first purchase?
I really like the 996 generation, which would have been the generation before this. It was the first Porsche that they made not using the air-cooled engine. It uses a water-cooled or liquid-cooled engine. They were kind of maligned for a while because of their headlights. A lot of people don't like the way the headlights look. They call them ugly. And because of that, the prices have kind of stayed reasonable. I think those are great cars, so I would recommend just a base coupe from that generation. Big value there.
That's the one with the lights and it looks like eggs.
Yeah, the fried egg. And it goes because the reason they call it that is because the original ones had an orange light on the turn signal, and then when you look at it in the shape with the light from the headlamp, kind of looks like a fried egg.
But those are cool. Like those are the ones from my youth, and so I always actually like those.
Yeah, same here. I love them. I think they're great, and a lot of times when there's things that are very controversial like this car, it might be the way to go because you save a lot of money because a lot of people don't like them at all. They think they're not great, but I think they're pretty good.
Cool. So, Trevor, what sort of advice would you give to a young man who is in pursuit of whatever his dream is?
I would say you have to be true to yourself. A lot of, and I still struggle with this a lot. But if you want to try something, try it. Again, living with regrets is probably the worst thing. So it doesn't mean it's going to work out, but at least you tried. You don't want to look back and say, I don't know, I should have tried this or I should have done that. And time, these things take a lot of time. I might have a lot of nice things right now, but it took it took time to get there. There were a lot of years where I was worried about how to pay my rent. So give yourself time, give yourself grace, but also realize that if you don't take a chance, it may not happen. You have to take chances.
That's perfect. And we appreciate you stopping by.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.